Okay, hello, welcome back already to the next installment of this series, I guess, of going through all of the UnFCed songs on the various number of spreadsheets that we've accumulated over the years since beginning in 2017. So we're at the point now where all Strums, a sheet that I think was made in 2018. It was actually not made at the same time as the 150 sheet, which was the OG, even before the Ultimate sheet. All Strums is weeded in its entirety. So, and when I say that, I mean for 5 fret, because GHTV is not weeded. But everything else has been weeded out now, resulting in a total of 81 songs left to FC on all Strums. Now, the majority of these songs come from both Rock Band Network 1 and 2, and this video is about Rock Band Network 1, which has just recently been weeded out to a total of 35 songs, which is less than the 62, or fewer than the 62 that we had in Rock Band Network 2, and for good reason, and that was expected, because it's easier, and most of the songs in this list are very possible. There are a few that probably won't ever get done. I don't think there are any songs here that are just like straight up you see one section and you know it's impossible. I think everything in here is probably even tech FCable, maybe. So it's not really the same story as the Rock Band Network 2 video. But yeah, it's kind of wild. We're at the point now where the spreadsheets are, at least for the main series, Rock Band and Guitar Hero, are nearly done. The only sheet left in that capacity is bass 150. So, and that maybe will get weeded. There's no reason why it couldn't. That was a sheet that could probably even get finished. Keys, another one that could get finished. But this is sort of a ramble, but I just thought it was kind of remarkable that we're at the point now where all Strums has been weeded out. This was a sort of second thought spreadsheet, and big thanks to everybody that's been helping out the main weeder, or the weeders for this. By the way, I'm just using the word weeder and weeding like it's nothing, but I'm aware that that's kind of a silly terminology we use for people that just blast through everything. The main weeders for all Strums, originally it was Nolan, who got about 1,000 FCs, and then just, I don't know, did something else, I guess. One-man band, full series FC. And then in recent months, or even weeks, I don't know how soon this has been, Geometric has got like 2,700 FCs. Just an absolute fiend when it comes to blasting it through. In any case, we're left with these 35 songs, and I'm sure you can't wait to see them. I've done the very same thing as I did last time, put them into a little makeshift breakdown. You will agree or disagree, doesn't really matter. But again, take it with a pinch of salt. I am not an expert on these songs. Gio actually gave me a nice little, what would you call it? Like money highlight document, which has helped me do this, because one thing I will note about this is that Rock Band Network 1 has no sections, or it does, but they're just in increments of 5, 10 or 20%. So if you want to practice something specific, you're going to want to make great use of your D-pad and just scroll through all of the sections, or try to make your own. I tried to put my own sections in here, and I just ended up with MSCE files, so I gave up and sort of like tilted. But less of that and more of the songs. So that's about enough preamble. The first of the 35 songs that I would consider the easiest left is a song called The Crying Machine Live by Steve Vai. So for this one, well, it's pretty long. It's nearly 8 minutes. But the main thing we've got to look at is a section pretty late on, which is just kind of strange. It's reminiscent of For the Love of God, and forgive me if I take a moment to read this document, because like I said, I don't have any sections and I haven't memorized all the percentages. So this part in The Crying Machine is about 3/4 of the way through. In fact, it's before this section. That's the most notable part of the song. Definitely the highest NPS. Then we do have this kind of chokeable trill afterwards, and the song does end with a BRE kind of thing. It probably is a BRE in fact, but you'll probably want to know what strum this ends on, or just get lucky. Otherwise, there's a few little tricky bits earlier on. This song could be one and done without a doubt. Okay, that's the first one. Next one is a song called Strobe Lights. Now this was a song I'd never heard of, so you could call it a sleeper, and funnily enough, album title is called Wake Up the Sleepers. Kind of interesting thing going on there, but it's just one little bit in the solo. Let's take a look. Here it comes. So it's kind of like a Fury of the Storm style trill. Not that fast, pretty easy to one hand. I think those types of trills are a lot easier to do than just straight up same note ones a la Eminence Front. So I think that one, in a not particularly long song, doesn't need to last very long. Next up, Twister. Kind of a all over the place song. This is a classic. But as far as all strums goes, there's not really much as far as solos and the likes. It's more just like, don't strum too many or too few times. You don't really count it, because this is like the main riff. That would be the most notable part. Those are just descending triplets, which do show up again, about 60-70% in. Might as well show them off. Physically most difficult part of the song, unless you can't strum 20 MPS, because the strum bird's still there. That's it for Twister. I mean, hard to really comment on how hard that is. Is it even that much more difficult than regular Twister? I mean, yeah. But it's not typical for a song like this to be left at the end. In any case, one of the easiest ones. Next up, World on Fire. Same song as Warriors of Rock, DLC, if any of you remember that. We just got a guitar and keys solo. This is kind of like classic. I think probably a bit less clean than the Warriors of Rock chart. Tricky, for sure. The song's not too long, and there are much harder songs that have been done than this, though. So, just a bit of a straggler. Next one, I Am Legion. By the way, this is sort of like a... For a lot of this, there's going to be like a top 100 hardest rock band charts throwback. There's so much overlap with the top 100, or the original top 100, from Score Hero days. Such as this, I Am Legion. Just the solo, like a lot of the songs here. Let me find out where the percentage is. So it's around here. There's only really one difficult part in the solo. Kind of a strange chart otherwise. That's it. But it's like 5 minutes in, so that would be the main difficulty. I mean, so with songs like that where the hard part comes so much later in, I find that that is a big turn off when it comes to all strums. I don't know, the pressure is a bit higher. I feel like all strums is such an undeveloped skill for a lot of us. For pretty much all of us, it's going to be less developed than just playing the game normally. So, yep, just an aside, I suppose. Next up, this one doesn't really have that problem because the hard part is pretty much straight away. Fight to Kill. Not as bad as I was expecting. I couldn't really remember exactly what this chart was like, but it's mainly just zigzags, to be fair. It's quick, right? I think that's the main thing. But how quick is it? This little zigzag at the end is about 20 MPS. It's not like a consistent pattern either, which would make it a bit trickier. Still, it's 1 minute in. And clearly not impossible. Next one, Riot Act. Not as bad as you might expect unless you really hate those riffs, which I wouldn't blame you. Riot Act is, as far as all strums goes, is the solo. Let's find it. This probably the most difficult part. Maybe not actually. Nice thing about Riot Act is that it's all snapped very nicely. There's no nonsense like notes not on measure lines and stuff like that. So generally, if you can strum that quick and one hand that quick, you'll be okay. Again, the solo doesn't come in very far either. That one, snipe for the picking. Next one is going to be Laceration. Not a song that features on the top 100 or anything. But it's fairly long, it's 6 minutes, 6¼ minutes in fact. And we got the solo, which is maybe just over halfway in. There's only really one moment that's very difficult. That is quick. I don't know how quick it is, but the pattern is very simple, you know. So close yet so far. But anyway, the fact that that is 4 minutes in would make that a little bit trickier than maybe some of the more active solos we've seen so far. But naturally, if all of these songs look easy, that one is probably easier than some of the lower ones. Again, everything so far quite clearly not even that bad. Next up, we've got the return of Amberian Dawn, Incubus. It's dense, but not that difficult, really. Reminds you of Riot Act, all snapped nicely. Just triplet strum your way through it and you've got a shot. Easier than many other Amberian Dawn songs that have already been done. And not really any longer. So, yeah, Amberian Dawn could be finished. In fact, clearly Lionheart is done. So, yeah. That is not the last Amberian Dawn song though. There's going to be one a bit later, harder than that. Okay, next one, Unbound Soul. Another song that doesn't feature on the top 100, but All Strums does make it quite tricky. So this is one of those like guitar solo songs where it's just like some random guy just shredding on his guitar for whatever reason. They made it to RBN, this guy Dan Johansson or Johansson. There are two like bits of note. I'm just gonna go with what Geo gave me here. I tended to agree. This stuff is worth showing off at the beginning, but it's not the main reason it's difficult. What's going on? It's kind of like classic shredding, right? But then there is a part that is notably more difficult than the rest. And it wasn't that yellow sustain. Yeah, so reminds you of something like Dame Air, but with a longer trill on it, which is kind of tricky. That is fast. Not long enough to be that much of an issue. But it might be too fast for like I can't do it automatically. Tricky stuff. The song is not very long though, it's only about 3 minutes. So I can get done pretty easily. Next up is not a short song. It's infamous. It's Herleaving. Bit of a strange one. So the length of this song is a problem for sure. There's only really one part that is any like more difficult on all strums though, and that's the first solo. The rest of it is automatic. There is the second solo, which is just like long triplet strumming, but it's easy. So we'll just look at the first solo here. Which is going to be just over halfway through. 55 to 60-ish. And again, it's not a very friendly solo for all strums either. It's not too consistent. That part would usually be the hardest. Not really the case anymore. Perfect solo, they say. Well, it's the ending bit, really. The very first bit that kicks off the solo, and then the ending bit. So this takes us to, I don't know, something like 6 minutes 20 into this song, and then you just got to not throw it away, which you won't. Let's be real, unless you've got faulty hardware. So it's a slogger, and it would probably need to be one and done. Like I say again, the pressure of these all strum sections so far into these songs is a little bit different, but yeah, clearly possible. Much easier than many songs that have been done. That's the case for the majority of these songs, by the way. A lot of them you'll look at them and be like, well, hard has been done. So bodes well if we want to get to some arbitrary target. I don't know, it's certainly not going to be a sheet that goes down to 0. Maybe we could put some arbitrary like 50, who knows. Okay, next one is a bit like Unbound Soul, but more difficult. It's Refraction by Ricky Graham. Again, just over 3 minutes. We've got multiple solos that are just a bit tricky. Nothing out of this world. Again, I'm just going to play the section that Gio's given us. Pretty fun song to play though. So that's the first solo, then we got another one. I think this is the trickiest. Yeah, so that's like the toughest one-handing. And probably the trickiest to really get the strumming exactly right. But we got some more choke spots. Reminds me of some of like the Headrest Rama songs from Rock Band Network 2. Actually, Insanity of the Atoms, Rock Band Network 1? I think it might be. But Stellar Crush, you know. So there's that one, and then there is the final solo. So it's almost like there's two different types of songs. There's ones where you just gotta be like insanely great or fast, and there's songs like this where you pretty much just need a natural all strums ability, and you'd look at that and be like, well, there's nothing you can't do there, and probably not overstrum. I don't know what the sort of strategy is for all strums to get like that good at all strums, or at least to be able to sight read stuff and not like play too many or too few notes. I'm not sure. I would have thought high note speed and long highway would have been part of that. Otherwise, just recognizing patterns, like picking out certain sets of 5 or 3 notes and calibrating yourself. It's not easy, but some people can do it. And for those that can, that is a prime candidate to one and done. Next up is another classic, Liquid Smog. Not as bad as you might expect. Still pretty fast, but doable. It's so short as well. Like the song's like average length, but just the quick bit is really just little. Mainly that zigzag. Well, I don't know what the peak NPS is. It's probably really quick. Well, it's just for such a short amount of time. Like you wouldn't have to strum this speed, but I think that's a 26 MPS zig. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Obviously, you don't have to strum that fast, but it's quick, but little. And that little mini trill at the very end barely even counts. Not really an issue in the way that conventional trills are for all strums. And again, it's pretty appealing to go for. The song has some notoriety. It's only about 3 minutes long. So yeah, right, next one. Bit of a weird one to place, I thought. I couldn't really gauge how hard this was. I said, Shed the Blood. Another one in the top 100. In fact, no, not all of them. Not all of them are from this point. That's not true. But it's just a solo. But the pattern in the solo is particularly strange. It kind of just seems to me like something you would just fluke. So here it is. Not very difficult to one hand necessarily. But very strange to count. Maybe it's just an 8. I mean, it kind of looked that way. So like, what is this? No, it's in 7, so there's a 4 and a 3, so that's bad news. And it's not even consistent. That's why I say just fluke it, probably. You know, if it's not that fast to one hand, you just strum through it and hope for the best, you know. A lot of songs like that. Next one is not like that. This is War Machine. Kind of a sleeper, if you never heard of it. This song is also notable at 150. And there's very good reason. And you'll find that out in only a moment. So there's 2 reasons back to back why this is an issue. Let's have a look. This is the very end of the song, last 10%. So it's not very fast to one hand, this. Kind of difficult to stay coordinated, but then you got this. So this is a BRE, usually. That's too fast for me to standard. This trill, I mean, is very doable, right? Kind of just weird speed. Not very accurate. It just randomly ends. But this strumming is... I don't know if the BPM changes, doesn't really look like it does. It's 21.5. It's actually not as quick as I thought it was. But I mean, I can't strum 21.5 notes per second standard. So this is sort of an all-strum song that is, yes, it's UnFCed because it's difficult on all strums specifically, but it's also UnFCed for a completely different reason, in the fact that it has this 21 notes per second strumming at the end, and in fact you don't even have hopos now, which you used to have, right? So you can't just rake and fluke it because it would end on a yellow sustain, which is what happened at 150, where it's like 30 NPS. So, bit of a strange one. If you can strum that fast, like, you know, like Jeff or somebody, that's not really a problem. Otherwise, rake it, but you'd probably want to learn it. Very strange one to have, but also like very obvious why it's not done. I don't think there's anything else too difficult in the song. I think I remember there being a kind of tricky solo at 150, but probably doesn't apply here. That's War Machine. Okay, next one. Nosophoros, Evil. Fair number of Evil songs left. This is among the easiest, but it's not easy. We've got a couple of things in both solos. Probably the trickiest, well actually not necessarily. I was going to say the trickiest part overall is in the first solo, but not necessarily. I forget where the tricky part is. I think is it about here? This is in solo 1. Do it better justice than that. Or maybe not. It's just that difficult. Okay, so that's the first kind of tricky part. The rest of the solo 1 is a little bit difficult as well, but not really anything worth showing off. You just be aware of it. And then we've got solo 2, which is probably the bigger money. You got patterns that you'd possibly tap. It's not as fast as I remember it being though, but that's not it. prepare yourself for those chords, which again aren't as fast, aren't that fast in general. And that's not so for us. Maybe that one, I don't know if it's necessarily that high. That second solo, although it's not too fast, it's not simple, and you do have to get there. You have to get past the first solo. So, and naturally with Evil, there are a bunch of weird riffs in it as well. I don't think it's too bad in this song. Gets worse later, that's for sure. Next one, we've got Amberian Dawn again. I think this is the last one. So does that make 2 Amberian Dawn songs not FC'd? Full stop. Amberian Dawn is done on Rock Band Network 2 now. So if you get these 2 Amberian Dawns completed, and they're not the hardest 2, but this one is He Sleeps in a Grove. Pretty nasty for one particular reason. I will play the solo up to it though. So here comes the money. Oh, no way. I didn't even know I could combo that. But yeah, that's difficult, to say the least. I don't know how fast it is, but this has been an issue. This is an issue to do on like regular Rock Band. Not really for the same reasons it would be hard here, but technically you've got a Spock here, haven't you? You've actually got an alt Spock. I'm going to coin that now. That's an alt Spock at the beginning, which is kind of brutal. So the way I would used to, this is like an aside, but the way I would used to do this on Rock Band, I think I would tap the blue and then yeah, so tap the blue and do that sort of alternate thing. But again, it's weird, so you probably want to alt strum from the note before it. This yellow. Something like that. And get just really early. Oh, come on, I'm dedicated now. I'm going to cut my losses. But that sort of thing. The speed of the trips is... This is 21, so this is fast. This is not just a tricky pattern, this is fast. And you probably do have to strum 21 notes per second as well. What was I just saying in the last song, or 2 songs ago? I can't strum 21 notes per second? Well, there you go. It is a blink and you miss it, but that is particularly difficult. Maybe you think I put it too high, which is fine, because that means it'll be no bother for you to FC. Okay, so that's He Sleeps in a Grove. Again, not a very long song, which is nice. Next up, Mr. Shiny Monkey, Chaotrope. I can't remember if we had a Chaotrope song already. Maybe not. But yes, there are a number of Chaotrope songs remaining. 6 or 7. I'm not going to count them, but this, I guess, is the easiest. Pandemonium. So Chaotrope in Rock Band Network 1 was a bit different. Like, there were fewer of those like ridiculously impossible sections like Chiasm and Hourglass and stuff like that. But there were genuinely stuff that was difficult at the time. And bear in mind, this is Rock Band Network on like Rock Band 2, so stuff was a bit like easier anyway. Like, we didn't know how far things would get. So naturally, these Chaotrope songs are a lot easier than the ones on Rock Band Network 2, which is why I'm not so like dejected the whole way, being like, well, it doesn't really matter because they're all impossible. Not really in this case. Pandemonium. So let's actually look at it, not just talk about it. The main thing is the solo, which is the case for all the Chaotrope songs. So let's have a look at it. So, Orange Wall Trill. It is quite slow compared to trills that have already been done and orange walls that have already been done as well. But that isn't quite it. Got this bit here. So despite that abysmal attempt, that is just a standard zigzag that is on ups and downs. Kind of weird zigzags. I can't tell if they're hard or not on all strums. I think they're harder than like one would expect for such a simple and common pattern. But yeah, that's the extent of Pandemonium. This solo is about 4 minutes in, and I don't think it's completely free to get to it. There is some like basic but kind of tricky fretting earlier on. But yeah, I'd say that's pretty much the easiest K-Trop song we've got left. Full stop, but also in Rock Band Network 1. Next up, Get the Hell Out of Here. Kind of a an unfortunate one, because when you play the solo you'd be like, it's difficult, but very doable. So it might give you the false sense of hope that, oh, maybe I can actually do this. That was so bad. I honestly, I'm not accepting that. It is weird though. So that isn't actually anywhere near as bad as some of the solos we've seen so far, but this song decides to end with this. Which does suck. It's a consistent pattern at a consistent speed, but it's not the easiest pattern in the world to do all strums, I wouldn't say. It does start with a Spock as well. The speed we're looking at is 18.5, so not absolutely ridiculous, but so chokeable, and that solo is not free, need I remind you. It's pretty missable. But that's what I mean. It's a shame that it isn't just the solo. I don't know why I'm picking on this one in particular, because it's not like it's the absolute hardest. It's not like a Victoria or a Child in Time or Bodhisattva situation where the BRE is so ridiculous that it sort of like deflates you. But still, this could have been a more prime candidate. Oh well. Right. At this point we're probably getting to stuff that I couldn't do. So, next one is going to be Seronophobia. Next K-Trop song. How many do we have left, by the way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 16th hardest, and I'm only just now saying that I couldn't really do anything from this point, which is a lot later than the other one. Although some very hard songs have been done already. That was the case of Rock Band Network 2 as well. I need to stop going on these tangents. Right, Seronophobia. Really, there's only one reason. This is not normally a very hard K-Trop song. It's definitely normally easier than Pandemonium. We got our first kind of tricky bit here. Just some triplets, but then some triplets turns into a lot of triplets in the third solo. Now this is bad. I might have underrated this just because the pattern is so simple and isn't that fast, but all strumming triplets is not like automatic. Mainly because it's in cycles. Generally, I think triplets that change between notes, you know, like Dystopia, although not at that speed, are easier to all strum than ones that are just repeated patterns like one. But this is the latter case, so let's have a look. And with chimneys to end, yeah, it doesn't look that hard, which is what frustrates me. It kind of looks easy, doesn't it? It's like, well, that's not very hard. Imagine there was only one set of those. It wouldn't make a song un-FCable. But it's the endurance factor. Like, to be that coordinated for such a long amount of time is much harder than you would think. Now, anybody that's like can do that in one try is thinking, what are you talking about? It is easy, which is fair enough. But I think this sort of thing is kind of sleeper material in a way. Maybe you disagree. But I think that's it with all strums, is that even though it doesn't look that hard, it doesn't mean it isn't difficult. But yeah, that's Serenophobia. That stuff is right at the end. Okay, next up we've got Dawn of a Million Souls, which I'm going to mute the desktop for, which I'm sure you couldn't hear anything anyway, but I think this is an infamous song that gets blocked, or it used to be. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, songs getting blocked. So Dawn of a Million Souls is basically a fat solo that takes up more or less the second half of the song. I'll play it all, but really it's the second half of that solo that's difficult. It's a solo that gives you a fair number of unique challenges in a way. There are a couple of things that don't really show up in any other chart in this song. So it could be a fun one to go for. But there is one main thing that makes this unappealing. You know what? Like, what is even the point? I can't even do stuff in practice without the rewind glitch happening. Is this a problem for everybody else? I assume it is. Just rewinding at random points? Now, where was I? Glitch Central. Right, here comes the first kind of big money, but then we've got the deal breaker right here. Just because it's fast, not because it's that hard or quick to one hand, but I think peak MPS is pretty quick here. Let us measure it. So again, it's 21 MPS, that seems to be a bit of a theme. 21 notes per second sweep, reminiscent of De Colne, I think you'll find. Actually 2112 MPS as well. But yeah, it's just pretty quick. The fact that it follows that first kind of messy bit as well makes this a bit of a a big FC, to be honest. And the solo is not like right at the beginning, it's most of the way through the song. Alright, next one is another weird one. You might remember, well, I'll get into that actually. It's History of Execution. So, much like its 150 counterpart, it's only difficult because of the end, which is the normally hidden BRE. So kind of the opposite of, what was the song I was talking about? Get the hell out of here. With its a lol pattern, self-referential pattern of chords at the end. But that's obviously not the issue, because you can figure that out like in 20 seconds if you just look at it. The main issue is the trill, or the Jordan-like pattern there, that is not very easy to strum through, let alone one hand. So this might look worse than pretty much anything we've seen so far. It's average 18.5 notes per second, but that's really quick. So it's another weird case. You might remember that 150, when Rock Band Network 2 was weirded, this song and It's Going to Be a Long Night were both left, and they were both fairly high up in the ranking at that point, and it wasn't looking like they were going to get done anytime soon. But you may remember that because these kind of weird things at the end are normally under BREs, it's acceptable to FC the song on Rock Band 3 with the modifier. So It's Going to Be a Long Night ended up getting FC'd on Rock Band 3 at 150 with the BRE. So really that BRE has never been, like, that chart has never been FC'd at 150 on Clone Hero. But I mean, it counts for the sheet, because hell, these things were not supposed to exist. Like, Bodhisattva is very much the same way, right? So the same will apply here. If somebody wants to do the History of Execution on all strums on Rock Band 3 with the BRE, that's fine. In fact, I know Bryce was doing some stuff on all strums a long time ago on Rock Band 3. It's not unheard of. This song, I don't think, would be impossible to do on all strums, or even that difficult. So this could be the easiest left. But it depends on if anybody is that bothered, because really, what's the outcome? You know, we edge ourselves one song closer to the all strums finale, which will never happen. Having said that, you know, every NEFC is appreciated on any of these sheets, so there you go. There's your way out for this one. Not that it would be the hardest, you know, even if you had to do it on Clone Hero, it wouldn't be the hardest song, but it makes it free. Let me just check where the 10th song is, because I will call out the top 10. Okay, so next one, yeah, this is number 13, I guess. Next one is K-Trop again, Betrayed. Normally kind of one of the easier K-Trop songs, is sort of like Baby's first K-Trop FC. But it's large money on all strums for one main reason. Might have put this too high. It was one of the first ones I looked at, but it's difficult in any case. So we want to look at about the halfway mark here. And this is the true money of this song. That's a fast trill. 20-ish notes per second. And it's not even a local trill. It's 21 notes per second exactly. So that's enough to make the song extremely difficult as far as I'm concerned. I still don't really know what the consensus is on how a trill that short how difficult it makes a song, whether it's worth going higher than all of these other songs just because there's trillers in there. For me, it's like, it's such a difficult pattern to do on all strums that it boosts it. But anyway, that's not really the only thing either. We've got the solo later on. The solo later on, he said. This is solo 2. So that's a bit of an issue as well. Another little mini trill, but we've got to strum quad chimney quite rapidly as well, which isn't so difficult to one hand. But again, this is 21 notes per second. Come on! Ugh, you don't get nothing in this world, let me tell you. But yeah, that's sort of easier than the trill, but still very difficult. And then you do have a choke spot. This BRE is nowhere near as bad on all strums as it was on 150. Let me just say that now. But still chokeable. Even the trill isn't very fast. And that's Betrayed. Not very appealing. Not a very nice song to listen to either. I'm sorry, K-Trop, Mr. Cunningham, but that is not... has not aged well. Those sound fonts. It's just the sound fonts, you know? It's like all treble. Okay. Next one's My Parasite. Kind of weird. It's the reverse of 150. 150 was awful because of the riffs. Now the riffs are normal speed, and in fact they're pretty much identical as they would be on Rock Band, so free as far as they're concerned. Now the solo is a big issue, and it is the issue with this song. Because it looks like this. So at least it's not like the same note kind of trill. It is a castle. And we do have this chokeable bit afterwards as well. But that's fast. And it lasts a long time. How fast is it exactly? It's 18.5, so kind of another theme seems to be 18.5 notes per second. Those are our numbers of the day, 18.5 and 21. But it's just, it goes on for a while. How long does it go on for, you know? 4 measures worth of that. So it is going to be challenging to one hand and strum that fast for that long, and just not even once hold that note for just a little bit too long. And you also got to be good at the riffs, but I think that's more of a a given as opposed to anything else. Not the highest evil song. So next up is Septilogy, back to K-Trop. I don't know if it was as bad as I thought it was going to be or not, but it's difficult, right? It's difficult. What is the point in saying that? It's like saying we're playing Clone Hero. Like, come on, think of something better to say. It's long, and it's got multiple difficult parts, but none of the parts are that insane. Okay, there. That's a better summary. So Septilogy, the first thing we're going to look at is Solo 1. So that's quick. The difficulty of all strumming a chimney is weird. I feel like it's probably easier than all strumming triplets, just because the strum accent is much more obvious in the fact that it's the highest note. But the pattern is probably a bit trickier to one hand. These ones are pretty quick, but they're not the only chimneys in the song. That's just our introduction to them. Then we've got this little tiny bit, which shows up what in a second. So that's not that difficult to one hand, but again, just pretty quick. The main reason this is bad is because of solo 3. I think there was probably a big jump between this, My Parasite, and this. Maybe not. Solo 3 in its entirety would be pretty mega, and it comes, 5.5 minutes into the song. A weird strum speed. Not only is it quick, but it's not what you'd really expect. And when I say it's not what you'd expect, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like you're strumming the right speed. But that's maybe just me. So, a number of things to talk about here. First is the zigs, or these sort of like double tap patterns. So I want to know what the notes per second is on that zig. Oh wow, it's 21 and a half. So it's not exactly 21, but maybe I could have guessed that. So already you're going to have to strum very quick for a measure. And then we've just got this long trill and chimney section. I think those chimneys are slower than the solo 1 ones, but I mean, they begin with a trill, and then how does it even descend? Like, it's just weird chimneys that they give you. Ah, right, so it goes down the scale. It's kind of like paroxysm, right, where the zigs are over all 5 frets, very much the same thing, but with the chimneys, and a lot slower. And then you got this little tiny little chokeable bit here too. And that's Subtility, a 7-minute K-Trop song that's possible, but unlikely to be done, I would say. And then we get to the top 10. So, next one is Guitars Suck. I would say the 10th hardest, I guess. A weird one to really say how hard it is. It's an endurance fest as opposed to anything that's like undoable. So I'm going to play sort of a select few sections. First thing I'm going to do is play like from the beginning. But the first thing you notice is that a lot of this song is made up of the same pattern over and over again. And it does always let you just reset. But like, I'm getting tired now. I might have been doing well at the beginning, but that is only going to go downhill. The rest of the first solo is pretty much the same thing twice in a row. and you have that orange wall triplet section, which is pretty quick. But then not like, you don't really get a break, because as soon as you finish this first solo, which takes about the first half of the song, you get this little bit of respite, 2 measures, 3 measures, and then you're at the quad zigs. So it's exhausting. I mean, the strumming is, how fast? Don't tell me. 18. I'm gonna lock it in. It's not that fast. It's 17. So consistent 17 notes per second strumming in these triplet parts. The nice thing is that it's all snapped nice and evenly. So if you're really good, you shouldn't really fall off track. It's just a case of like a physical challenge. There's not really much thinking to do with it. But it goes on for a long time. Which is why I say it's hard to place, because endurance-based songs, unless you've tried, like, grinded them, who knows how hard they are. Like, you know, if you're fully warmed up, it might be the easiest thing you've ever done. Or, you know, within the top 10 easiest things you've ever done, at the very least. So, that's not it either, because you do have the bonus material at the end. Which you don't really get the scale of on this last section here, but essentially it's just, you know, another 30 seconds of the intro again, so just don't donk it. Probably wouldn't donk it, I wouldn't have thought. Well, I say that now. We'll see how many For the Love of God throwaways were there by like 5 different people. But yeah, that's Guitar Sucks, about 3 minutes. You do get a bit of a minute long, 45 second long guitar solo break in the middle, which isn't very difficult. Which is why I think that this last one probably isn't so bad. But then Under Pressure, what was I saying about pressure? Okay, number 9, XIV. It's just so fast. It's very fast. So the first thing is, there's kind of like a little baby section. If I just show this off, this isn't why the song is that hard, but this is sort of like a little mini gatekeeper if you want. Just 16ths. But not the easiest pattern actually to one hand. Kinda don't really see that pattern anywhere else. I can't think of one. Let me know if you can. And then you got the solo, which is difficult for one big reason, but it's pretty tricky throughout. Yeah, so for some reason this song has the same issue as Paroxysm Part 2, in that the triplets are just not triplets. I really don't know what's going on there, but that's beside the point. So yeah, the only reason this song is that high up is because of those chimneys, which they do come after a section that is quite tiring on your left hand at the very least, and they're fast. And how fast are they? Everybody's favourite part, where I scroll through the menu and the grand reveal. It's closer to 22 than 21. You know, there's blink and you're missing. That sort of stuff is what makes a song difficult, and they're there. Maybe you can make an argument that Septilogy is harder than that because there are more chimneys, but I don't know. Very difficult to say. In any case, it's not one that's likely to be done soon. Prove me wrong. You ain't gonna do that. Okay. Number 8, Ripper. This, I mean, you'll see quite rapidly why this is hard. Just an extended trill section. These aren't that fast, but they're definitely fast enough to make it very, very hard. We're looking at, well, 17 notes per second, but it's the duration. They last a while. And they're all over the place. Again, we've got very few local trills, they're all split. Kind of random as well. It's not that obvious where you're going to stop strumming, where you're going to keep strumming. So yeah, and you've got some other like weird stuff at the end of the solo, but really it's just this bit. I mean, Revolution Death Squad is FC'd, right? So why can't we do Ripper? I mean, for me, it's like, I think for me that's harder than XIV, but I don't know where I'm getting that information from, because I definitely can't do either of them at all. So make of that what you will. We'll move on to number 7, which I put as Real. Which is kind of obvious. This is going to be the shortest song on the list, but it's very well known, well documented. So we'll play the whole solo. Just gets more difficult. Yeah, the trill. And this. Which is not easy to even do on its own. So, getting up to the trill isn't that free. These parts are nothing we haven't seen before, but not easy. Yeah, one hand this. I believe this can be done one-handed by a number of people at this point. But, again, we got to do an MPS check. 19. Not 18 and a half. 19. No, 19. Which, I don't know, I didn't know how fast that was. It sounds slower than I expected, but we were just looking at Ripper trills, which were, what, like 17 and a half? And this is faster, surrounded by more difficult sections, and has a huge choke spot at the end. Which, in and of itself, is how fast? Is this, like 17? Yeah. Average. I think I used to tap that back in the day on Rock Band as well. So it's not even the freest, like, one-handing in the world. Very obvious why Real is quite so high up. Will it be done? I don't know. And then we get to number 6, which you may be surprised to find I've put outside of the top 5. It could easily go in there though. It's Burn by Mike Orlando. Now this is a weird one because it's very difficult, obviously, but it's not necessarily that hard on all strums for the most part. It's not really a tapping song. You know, I mean, you could use taps to aid yourself back in there, but like on clone here, I don't think there's much of this you would tap, and the peak MBS isn't that fast for a lot of it, although for one point it is very fast, which becomes an issue. So I'll show off the first solo through to Sweet Pea section, if I can. This main riff isn't so bad, just 16ths for most of it. So we got stuff like Solo 2, where on Rock Band this was an issue section, but on Strums I don't think it really would be. Certainly not as much like this. These sweeps are probably harder than they look as well. But again, it's all kind of just triplet strumming so far anyway. And we've got the big massive Solo 3 in the middle, which probably isn't that bad, but it's worth looking, worth seeing. A lot of consistency check sections in this song. And with 3 being taking up so much space, you probably don't ever want to miss it. So it's being consistent at sections like these. Not the hardest solo we've seen so far, and there's still more to show, which I guess is a bit of a testament to it's probably that this song is more than the sum of its parts. Oh, hello, this is a section we just played. Damn you, Rock Band Network 1. Luckily Solo 4 is like well undercharted, so no issues there. But Solo 5 is where we get our like actual issue. Yeah, that's rapid. And it's obviously chokeable as well. Those triplets. Let's do a check. Oh, don't worry, this is my favorite part too. So, what are we guessing? What are we guessing? I'll guess this is probably 23 notes per second. Let's see. Or is that an overestimate? If it's 21, I mean, I'm going to feel like a bit of an idiot. But it's not. It's 22.3. So this is... it's quick. And this is... it's very one-handable. But to do that accurately at the same time after FCing whatever the hell the rest of the song was is not going to be easy. And then you got to not choke the rest. So I'm going to say it again. It's not just the sum of its parts. It's more than that, or in a more concise manner, this is more than the sum of its parts, for sure. Like, I would think it would be pretty challenging to get up to solo 5 at all, let alone past it. So you could put this one a bit lower down. I do think the next 5 are pretty clearly extremely difficult though. And without solo 5 I probably would have put Burn higher up. Not within like the realm of possibility for me, but like technically this is probably tech FCable for more people than say a song like Real or XIV is. So take of that what you will. Next one's Chasing the Light. Now this is probably, well, it's one of 2 excellent examples in Rock Band Network 1 of the catchphrase, it only takes half a second to make a song impossible, because Chasing the Light, we all know, has the granddaddy of sweeps, rock band sweeps. It's such a short section that I haven't put it any higher than this. Well, what are we looking at? 22 notes per second probably. 23! So this is faster than Burn. The rest of the song is a lot easier than Burn, but this is like maddeningly quick. This is like, I could see like Jarvis doing this, I guess, but it's very fast. The rest of the song, really, I don't think there's anything at all. Which is kind of like, this is an obvious song to be left, but it's also cool to find which ones are just going to be left stagnant for such a long time. I don't know what point I'm trying to make though. It was clearer in my head. Anyway, that was a nice and easy one to show off. The next one's going to be very much the same. Number 4, Devoid of Thought. The last evile to do. Just one section really. Again. And that is not the correct section. We want to be in this one. It's probably easier than Chasing the Light, to be fair. But like, what the hell? We shouldn't really be talking about doing Devoid all Strums. I think Jawas like almost did it anyway. But is this MPS like quicker? Yeah, that's 27.5. And then we've got, presumably the second bit is very much the same. Yeah. It's funny, you know. You probably don't have to strum 27.5 notes per second, but the one-handing's easier than Chasing the Light, the one-handing's easier than probably like Real, but it's really fast. And 4 minutes into the song. Chasing the Light is pretty much the same as well. But yeah, 2 quick ones to show up. Next one is going to be similar. Or maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, it's Baptized by Fire. This is the 3rd highest song here. Second to last K-Trop song we've got. 2 things to show off. The first one is kind of like a little teaser. Right here. Not the reason it's so high, but I would defy myself to hit that even once. But then we've got what is basically GG's. So let's just have a look at it, and then let's have a think and see how possible this is. It's a lot. This is kind of like a mini endurance. The one-handing isn't impossible. Especially not this. This is pretty tiring. But on your strumming hand, this is going to be very, very, very difficult. To number one, keep the speed, and number two, do these sweep sections. Because that's weird. It is kind of doing 6 strums. You're just going to do, you know, 2 sets of slower ones, 1 set of quicker ones. Oh man. So these spikes are 28 knots per second. I did not expect them to be quite that fast. And then the last one of the first sort of set, isn't it quicker? Like, what are we looking at here? I guess not. It always looked quicker to me. I don't know why. But yeah, we're talking 28 knot per second bursts. A lot of just... I mean, how fast is it? How fast are the sweeps normally? How fast is all of this strumming here? You know? It's 18 and a half. Okay. So, you know, you gotta strum 18 and a half with 10, like, strum bursts of 10 knots per second faster than that. Over and over. Excuse me. Maybe it's a bit high, I don't know. But, like, I don't really think there's anybody going to be doing this song right now. So we'll just move on. Next one is, I guess, the second hardest. It's Reaper. This is one I name dropped previously, and yeah, it's unrealistic. So the first thing we got to look at is solo 2, not 1. Which is kind of weird, but it's also very difficult. Like, to get past this solo would not be... without merit. So the main thing there, that sort of bit where it gets faster. Probably not much to write home for compared to what I'm going to show you next. So this is, I guess, like, maybe the biggest money solo in Rock Band Network 1 in total. Multiple reasons why that is such a big issue. Man, that is quick. And need I remind you that this is the kind of the main riff of the song. Not that difficult, granted, but like, when you've got such difficult stuff elsewhere, you probably would rather it was completely free to get to it, but that's not the case. So obviously, yeah, that trill, those zigs, and the rest. But then we got this BRE as well. Remember, you can bypass the BRE if you do this on all strums on Rock Band 3 though, so don't forget that. But let's have a look at the note spikes. How fast are we going? Zigzags. It's 21.5. Presumably the trail's pretty much the same. Yeah, so there's just like a big long passage of 21.5 knots per second. Stuff that isn't even that free to one hand. Not really much to comment on or explain why that is such a problem. So that would be probably one I wouldn't expect to ever get done from Rock Band Network 1. Probably just these top two. Baptized by Fire probably could be done. This, I don't think so. Nor do I think Nyalanth or Strums will ever be done. I mean, did I need to tell you that? I don't think so. Let's, for old time's sake, if you've ever watched these, let's just do the second half. How many times have I done this in these videos, playing Nyalanth second half? It'll never end, but let's do it again. Not all of it is impossible, but like there are multiple big issues with Nyalanth or Strums. This would join the leagues of the big boys in Rock Band Network 2. Just while we're playing through, it's remarkable just how different like the difficulty spikes are between these two. Because that wasn't really the case with 150, was it? In fact, Rock Band Network 1 is still not done at 150. Alright, this is the first main issue with Nyalanth. And the second. Alright, now we got probably a break till solo 5, if you want to call it that. Kind of a funny looking break to me, but you know what I mean. It's like stuff that isn't just completely impossible. 2, 3, and 4 wouldn't look out of place in some other kind of like marginally difficult all-Strums song. Then, if it wasn't already the hardest song, which it comes close, we got solo 5. I think it's just the pattern that's making that look like it's possible, because I don't think anybody's doing that. Luckily, solo 6 back to its normal kind of simple self. I would love to say solo 7 is free. It's honestly not as easy as it looks. Remember Seronophobia? But hey, guess what? 8 is no longer free. Remember My Parasite? Not as fast. But I mean, who would have ever thought solo 8 could be difficult? And then, you know, nine, probably not quite as bad as it looks, but the ultimate choke spot. Yeah, like what? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What are you talking about? There wasn't really anything else to show, to be fair, but like, guy can't catch a break. Playing the game for too long. Shouldn't really be that chokeable, but I mean, we're not really in the realm of people choking nylon all strums at this point. So what are the main issues? Well, solo 5 is the one, right? It's not the only one, but this is like, you know, we're talking 24, nearly 24 notes per second. Triplets all the way up for quite a long time. Not that simple to even one hand. You know, I'd have to be quite warmed up to do that. And strum it at the same time. After a lot of other difficult things. But then there's stuff in solo 1 that makes this kind of undoable as well. So 1 F. We were looking at Ripper earlier, like, which I'd placed within the top 10. And this is 18 notes per second. Probably a bit more complex, don't you think? It's kind of like doing the bit at the end of History of Execution, but there's no skip. So that's obviously a huge issue. But then, like where one-handing is an issue. But then you've got this. This is not normally a difficult thing on really nylon ever. But hey, now it is. Let's all hear it for the 23.66 notes per second descending triplets at the end of solo 1 in nylon that we all just sort of take for granted. But hey, now it's possible. I mean, it's probably not the hardest part of the song, but second hardest, right? And modes like these, it allows us to give these undersung sections their dues. We can finally talk about how these triplets are just kind of out of nowhere, and now they're a big issue. Anyway, that is the 35 songs in Rock Band Network 1, all strums, left to be FC'd, if you're still with me. It is quite remarkable how stark the contrast is between Network 1 and 2 when it comes to all strums, because I was saying 13 songs were never possibly going to get done for Rock Band Network 2, maybe 12 if we discount Godhead, but you know, over 10. I'm saying this one probably 2, and then everything above that I could see like possibly even being done if people go for it. Whereas with Rock Band Network 2, I think there are probably like 5 or 6 more songs that can get done before that's just done for. Like no one's going to try any of them ever again because there's no point. Which, by the way, that can't remember if I said, that's now down to 29 songs. So actually fewer than Rock Band Network 1, although this could easily get down to, you know, 12, 13, 14. We could half this, like overnight even, if people went for stuff. But yeah, kind of remarkable. The current standing, 82 all strums, is a big number. But we got to remember that at one point we were talking about, you know, the last 70 Rock Band Network 1 songs to be done at 150% speed. And at that point, you know, I certainly thought, oh, all these are big money. We might get this down to, you know, 20 or 30, but then it's down to, well, 1, you know what I mean? And Rock Band Network 2 is gone. Let's not forget about what we've achieved already. So anytime a new difficult song comes up where it's like, oh, it's so challenging, how is this ever going to get FC'd? We've got to remember what has already been done, and it's a lot of pretty insane stuff, lest we forget. In any case, it's not me sort of saying that, oh well, I expect the all strum sheet to get down to 0, but it'll probably go further than we'll expect. As for any more of these videos, well, I think probably an update on everything will be due at some point, so I'll keep making them. I enjoy making them. Also, I am really hoping that at some point we get the other parts of the 5-fret games ripped, and by parts I mean the other actual like non-Guitar Hero Rock Band stuff. So Rock Revolution, Power Gig, Fortnite Festival, GH Tunes, on disc custom songs, which is part of Guitar Hero actually, but I would like them as well. I guess like Guitar Hero iOS, like this is just theoretical at this point, right? If there were rips available, I'd count everything. Like GH, I don't know if there were charts on GH Carabiner, no idea. But you get what I mean. If more of this stuff gets ripped, then there will be more stuff to do. I would always like to make this as thorough as possible. But for now, 150 is weeded, 150 guitar is weeded, 150 keys is weeded, all strums is weeded. Bass 150. Well, I think its time is coming. But that'll be for another time. So, thank you for watching. If you have, I'll see you later.